Now that Ned's up here, let's get started. Good evening, everybody. It is the October 4th Murray City Planning Commission. My name is Travis Ney. I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. Over on my left, we have Sue Wilson and Maren Patterson, as well as Ned Hacker. And to my right, we have Lisa Milkevich. From staff this evening, it looks like we have Jared Hall and Zach Smallwood. Have a little bit of housekeeping up front. If you have cell phones, we ask that you silence your cell phone, please. If you need to take phone calls, we ask that you take them out in the hallway. If you are here to speak to an issue this evening, when we open that portion up for public comment, we'll ask that you come up, state your name and address for the record. We ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes unless you're representing a group of individuals. We'll give you 5 minutes. We will have the applicants all come up also when it's time. A couple of things we need to do before we get into the formal agenda. Item number 1 is approval of the minutes from both the August 22nd Planning Commission Land Use Training and the September 20th Planning Commission meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those items?
Yes.
Other than the minor text changes, do we have any corrections?
No.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the August 22nd, 2018 Murray Land Use Training meeting, as well as the minutes from the September 20th, 2018 Murray Planning Commission meeting.
A motion by Mrs. Patterson. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Ms. Milkevich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 2 is conflicts of interest. Does anybody have any conflicts of interest with the agenda this evening?
No.
No. Okay. Item number 3 is approval of finding of fact and certificate of appropriateness. I have a certificate of appropriateness to the Murray RDA seeking demolition of properties addressed 3 West 4800 South, 18 and 24 West 5th Avenue, and 33 and 35 East 5th Avenue. We have Olive Tree Yoga seeking a conditional use permit for a yoga studio at the property address 6051 South, 900 East. Then we have a Beehive Soap and Body Care seeking a conditional use for soap and body care manufacturer at 6111 South Stratler Street. And then finally, CertaPro seeking a conditional use permit for painting contractor business at the property address 4637 South Commerce. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
All right. Any corrections?
No.
Entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness and the certificates of conditional use permits as you just stated.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Hacker. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Mrs. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Item number 4 is Club 48 seeking a certificate of appropriateness for a major alteration at the property address 16 West 4800 South. Mr. Hall.
Thank you. So this is a certificate of appropriateness because the zoning of the property here, you can see Club 48 outlined in red there. The zoning of the property is the MCCD zone, and changes to properties in the MCCD zone require certificates of appropriateness. Certain of them can be done by staff, but others require what's called a major alteration or amount to what's called a major alteration, and that requires the Planning Commission's review. This is the request is actually to add a patio to the front of the building. This is the patio you can see in the drawing here. The patio is to extend in front of the 2 main doors. There's still 2 other doors shown here on either side. Planters here, there's a better depiction of those in the next plan, but this area, these particular stalls would be taken up by a new outdoor patio. That amounts to a major alteration under the MCCD zone, so we have to bring it to you for a certificate of appropriateness. I want to talk about a couple of quick things. This is the alleyway, and Commissioner Hacker, in the meeting you asked about the entrance to the other side where the ice house is. I'll show you that in the next slide. So you can see this alley that runs north and south provides access to both of these properties. So you have this other access coming up to where the ice house is, and you can see the ice house patio right there. They were recently approved for that certificate of appropriateness to extend their patio further. So we're doing a similar thing here at the Club 48 Bar and Grill as well. And then Club 48 actually has 2 other accesses on Box Elder also. Going back to the site plan, you can see those here. We do have plenty of parking on the site. The MCCD zone requires 1 to 500 square feet of usable interior space. It's about a 6,000 square foot building. When you break everything out, we're overparked by just, I think it was 11 or 12 stalls on this site. We don't let them park too much, so we have a little bit of room to give for handicap stalls. We need to add another handicap stall, as was mentioned, ADA compliant stall. And they are going to be adding some bike racks up near the building as well, on that kind of large sidewalk leading in. In addition to the patio, so this component, that's one component of their certificate of appropriateness. There are two other parts of that. That involves changing the facade of the building. The patio will go right in this area, right in front of that canopy that you see, the awning. So that'll go away, and they want to do a new sign as well. The sign requires a certificate of appropriateness, so does the change to the front of the building, the facade, and so does the patio. So all three of those components are part of this application. The applicants are planning to make the patio, it's a covered patio. They want to put a small wall around it to keep it separated from the parking lot and create that kind of delineation and barrier. The tables that are shown here are all being custom made. They're all wooden. Seat about 30 to 40 people out there when it's all said and done. They are adding some planters, these large concrete planters here at the corners of the patio. The cover of the patio will be wood and corrugated metal, and the side will kind of match that as well. There are some permits that will be necessary. They're going to run fans and electrical out there under the patio, so there'll be some building permits that are involved in this as well. The building officials already looked at the preliminary plans here, and they've talked about what they need to do for those permits. Just to show you the changes to the building. So the canopy and awning change. This awning goes away, and there's a new sign being proposed. The block facades get repainted, and we add some of the same kind of corrugated metal to the standing seam here, and the blue as well. So a lot of the same color schemes are in play, but there's more wood, more corrugated metal to kind of update the look for them. Did want to show you too just the sign. Again, this awning is going to go away because the patio will be right there, and they'd like to kind of update the sign but keep the same sort of script and block letter look. That'll be added there too. That's an appropriate sign in the MCCD zone. We'll have more details about that. It requires a permit also, but it does need your approval for a certificate of appropriateness. With that, staff is recommending approval with subject to the conditions that you see up there. Most of those are related to just meeting MCCD requirements and kinds of things that the DRC looked at. It was reviewed by them as well. I should probably talk about that process a little bit just for the record. This is in the MCCD zone, and lots of things about the building don't conform. We talked about this with the ice house as well. In the MCCD zone, if this were a new building, we would be building it up in this area right against the street. That's clearly not the case. So when they wanted to add on the patio, we went to the hearing officer to get granted an expansion of a non-conforming use. You can, under our code, expand a non-conforming building, and the building doesn't conform to those current MCCD standards. It's always only with me that screen goes black. But they were approved for that expansion of non-conforming use back in July. They then went to the Design Review Committee, the MCCD Design Review Committee, and they made a couple of changes to the site plan based on that review meeting that you saw noted there in your reports, and they're here for the final certificate of appropriateness from you. We are recommending approval subject to those conditions. Those are basically to make sure that they comply with building codes and meet the standards of the MCCD zone as far as we're able to on this particular project. Any questions for staff at this point?
Questions for staff?
I'm just, on the overhead that you were just showing us, it looked like they already have 2 ADA spaces painted.
Yeah,
So,
these two here.
yeah, if you
right?
just look on the left side of the building, so.
Yeah, and I think the
that's different.
patio interferes with one of those, the new patio.
Okay.
Because we did remove that, or it was shown removed, or it shouldn't interfere with it, but it looks like it does. So we'll look at that more carefully as we get going forward. But we will
Okay.
want to, for the number of parking stalls that they have, we'll want 2 ADA compliant stalls.
Okay, thank you.
I have a random question. So the square footage added in on the patio, does that ever go into our parking calculations?
It does.
It
And
does.
even with that included, we're still
Yeah,
way
yeah.
over.
I mean, I assume that we weren't close to exceeding it.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's a traditionally developed bar and grill, and so it's just that the MCCD zone anticipates people being on foot, and so its parking requirements are very minimal. In fact, we have maximum parking allowances. They don't quite get to those, so we don't have to ask them to remove any stalls. If we had 10 more stalls, we'd be asking them to black those out to meet requirements for maximum parking in the MCCD. Don't be shocked, Corey. It's okay.
I would just like to make a compliment that the hearing officer, Mr. Harland, was proactive in having them get the appropriate size of the patio in
Right.
place the first time, saving them another trip
Coming back
before us.
around. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yep. And that's actually when they decided to work on the sign and all that other stuff as well. They said, it's probably, we should just roll it all into the same application and get it done. So,
okay. Well, All right. Thank you. If we could have the applicant come up, please. Welcome back.
Hello, everyone. I'm Corey Billings, 16 West, 4800 South. I own and operate Club 48.
Okay, and you've had an opportunity to review the 6 conditions, and
I have.
you'll be able to comply with those?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything that you'd like to add to the presentation?
Jared covered everything, all my plans. As far as the handicap parking goes, there's still going to be 2 there, but they'll be stretched out wider
Okay.
and more compliant than they are right now.
Okay.
Right now, they're just regular parking stalls, but I want to make them bigger.
Okay, perfect. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to speak to this issue, we just ask that you come up, state your name and address for the record. And seeing none, we'll close the public comment and bring it back up here for discussion and/or a motion.
I'd like to make one comment. As I was looking at the design and the picture that Jared showed had some planters in front of the patio section, and then looking at new restriping of the parking lot, I'm wondering if you might consider putting some other vehicle barriers around the patio, just, how
Actually,
it works in a parking
It only
lot.
shows 2 planters, and there's actually going to be 4 or 5
Okay, excellent.
around it to get distance between the patio and the parking stalls.
It's a little different than the ice house. They're off kind of in the
They're in the
corner
corner.
versus yours is more centrally located in the parking lot. You get more drive-through, and that could be concern.
Yeah, and the planters should take up plenty of space.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the certificate of appropriateness with conditions 1 through 6 as outlined.
All right, I have a motion by Mrs. Wilson to approve a certificate of appropriateness for a major alteration at the property address 16 West 4800 South, subject to conditions 1 through 6.
I'd like the second, Mrs. Wilson.
Second by Mrs. Milkovich. Call for a vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. Good luck with your business. We're excited to see you updating the property there. It's going to look good. All right, item number 5, Andrea Washburn Landscaping seeking a major home occupation for a landscape business at the property address 5753 South Hillside Drive. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you up in just a moment. Thank you. Mr. Smallwood.
Okay, thank you. So this is a residential property. Ms. Washburn operates a landscaping business, and she is requesting a home occupation so that she can operate here outside of her home. It is in the R18 zone. Home occupations are allowed there. Here's a layout of the site. This is, doesn't work. That's fine. But you can see that in the pictures, you can see it a little better anyway. To the property to the north is, I believe her name is Joy Black. There is a fence in between. You can see in that lower left-hand corner, there's a fence that separates those 2 driveways. And so, yeah, she just wants to go ahead and open that up if she can. Some of the concerns we had are with storing her trailer on the property. According to the ordinance, we are not allowed to do, the applicant is not allowed to do that. So that's stated in one of the conditions. But other than that, we do recommend approval for this home occupation.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, any questions for me?
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
If we could have the applicant come up, please. And again, we'll just have you state your name and address for the record. Good evening.
My name is Andrea Washburn, and I'm at 5753 South Hillside Drive, Murray, Utah.
Okay, have you had an opportunity to review all 8 conditions?
I have.
And you'll be able to comply with those?
I mean, I think of having to rent an outside storage area might be kind of a financial burden for me. So I just bought this house, so.
Yeah, and I think everyone up here appreciates that fact, but unfortunately, the way the ordinance is written, it doesn't allow for the storage of your vehicles or any equipment. And in a landscaping business, that's challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And what's unfair, and I'll say it, is that you came before the planning commission doing the right thing, getting a business license, going about it the way you should, and yet the neighbor down the street who didn't do any of this gets away with it.
Oh, yeah. And there's RVs and trailers and trucks all over.
We fully appreciate your frustration with that. Yeah, unfortunately, doing it the right way means that it's the hard way. But, okay. Any questions for the applicant?
This isn't really a question, but just a comment, and you can always contact your council member about perhaps getting the ordinance amended.
Okay.
I am in full sympathy with your situation because we have a home-based business as well.
Yeah.
And so, believe me, nobody can sympathize with you more than I.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend, talking to your council person about maybe getting some of these things softened a little bit.
Yeah.
For those of us that just have a small home-based business and maybe just need to park one trailer.
Yeah. Well,
You know, so-
and I have the space to park it where it's
You-
not impeding on anyone else.
Right,
so.
you have a very
Right.
large driveway. It's in your backyard. Yeah, agreed.
I'd like to also just throw in there, though, we appreciate you following the rules, and I'm
Yes.
sure your neighbors do as well. And you can also rest easy at night knowing that you won't be fined or reported for breaking rules, where the neighbors who are breaking rules could be reported and fined.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Any additional questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is open for public comment. Oh, Mr. Smallwood, please.
I did want to make clarification that we do allow one vehicle to be stored on property.
It's just the trailer that is.
It's the trailer that is
Right.
the issue. So she could park her vehicle there. It's just the trailer that we would need to have addressed. So, okay?
Right, thank
Thanks.
you. So this is open for public comment, so if anyone would like to speak to this issue, come on up. Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and bring it back up here for motion and/or discussion.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we approve the major home occupation request for the landscaping business at the property addressed 5753 South Hillside Drive, subject to the 8 conditions.
I'll second.
Is it 8? Oh, it is 8. I typed 9. Okay, yeah,
8, right?
yeah, you're keeping me honest. Okay, I have a motion.
Sue.
We don't have a second.
Sue, I
Yeah.
think Sue.
No, Sue's.
Oh, well, I guess Sue's already seconded. All right, so I have a motion by Mrs. Patterson and a second by Mrs. Wilson to approve a major home occupation request for the landscaping business on the property address 5753 South Hillside Drive, subject to conditions 1 through 8. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. Apologies in all of my hurrying to get the meeting going. I forgot to mention, item number 6 this evening, if you're here for it, has been withdrawn. So we will not be hearing item number 6.
And good luck with your business and finding
Yes,
a
good
place to
luck.
park your trailer.
And do reach out to your city council member and
Yes.
suggest that there needs to be maybe some wiggle room in there. Okay, you're not the first person we've had to do that to, and you're following the rules, and you're doing the right thing by coming before us in the first place, and we recognize that. We're just bound by the letter of the law, unfortunately. So, item number 7 this evening is Joyful Learning Montessori seeking a conditional use for a home preschool at the property address 1228 East Castle Creek Drive. Is that applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you up in just a moment. Mr. Smallwood.
Okay, thank you. This is a application for a conditional use permit. And like I had made mention before, the property is actually to the left. The way that our property lines are laid out, it's just skewed from the map. So it's technically to the left there, where the knuckle starts. So this applicant is proposing to hold a preschool. She's stated that she would run it Monday through Friday, one session 9 to noon. And she is located in the R16 zone where this is a conditional use. Here we have the site plan. It does have a 6-foot fence along the side yards that protects from the backyard where she proposes. If there are to be, she doesn't anticipate having any outdoor activities, but if there happen to be one, it is protected by that 6-foot fence. She has proposed placing that in the front area And then here, a couple photos of the property. We do require that she has off-street parking for pickup and drop-off. As one of the conditions, we've requested that she has like a 10 to 15 minute window there that people can drop off their kids. A staggering, sorry. So we are recommending approval here, subject to the 6 conditions. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions?
No.
No? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if we could have you come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Jael Rodriguez Ginsberg, 1228 East Castle Creek Drive, Murray, Utah.
Have you had an opportunity to review the 6 conditions? And you'll be able to comply with those 6 conditions? Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the presentation?
No.
No. Are there any questions for the applicant?
I had one. I'm wondering if you don't get between 7 and 12 students, what do you do with your business?
Technically, I need the business license, the business permit, if I have more than 5. So I can still conduct a business if I have 5 or less students. 6 would get me in trouble, but I'll try to get there to 7 as soon as I can.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
No. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything to add, Mr. Smallwood? Nope. Okay. At this point in time, we will open this up for public comment, if anyone's here to speak to this issue.
So I was asked to, I received 2 or 3 calls and was asked to address those as the public comment.
Okay.
They are concerned about traffic on 5290 South, and they would like you to table this item until that has been addressed.
Could they get more specific? Could you go to an overhead? Do we have a map
Yeah,
that
yes.
shows the property?
Not that shows 5290, no.
5290 is to the just to the north of there.
Yeah, it's just to the north of that.
And-
So their concern was that there is a lot of traffic that is parked there due to a trailer park that is to the north, and they're not allowed to park on the street within the trailer park, so they park out on 5290.
If I'm not mistaken, it's at least 4 properties away from the subject property.
That's correct.
And the traffic that would be entering in to drop off 7 to 12 students over a 15-minute period of time is probably similar to what you would. I mean, it's not out of bounds with what these streets are designed to handle.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the professional side. So, yeah. So those were the phone calls that I had received. So I wanted to make sure that I read those into the record here.
And is it the appropriate time to ask? And for the record, our engineer has addressed that issue or has considered the issue.
Yes, in your staff report, it is. He has reviewed this during our planning review meeting that we hold for every conditional use
He
application.
does not have comments for this proposed use and recommends approval.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak? Okay, we will close the public comment and bring it up here for discussion or a motion. I'll just say I'm not overly concerned with the amount of traffic that this will generate. I think that you're inside of the neighborhood. The other street is meant to handle the traffic of multiple subdivisions dumping onto it. So
And there's potential that maybe some of the families would walk.
absolutely, in a residential neighborhood, absolutely. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit to allow preschool at the property address 1228 East Castle Creek Drive, subject to the following conditions 1 through 6.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Hacker to approve a conditional use permit to allow a preschool at the property addressed 1228 East Castle Creek Drive. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Ms. Milkevich. Call for a vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. Good luck with your school. All right, item number 8 this evening is O'Connor seeking a conditional use for an accessory dwelling unit at the property address 6102 South Clear Street. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you up in a moment. Mr. Hall.
Thank you. So this is an accessory dwelling unit. They are allowed in all of the residential single-family zones of the city with conditional use permit review, as you're aware. So Mr. O'Connor wishes to use the property at 6102 South Clear Street with an accessory dwelling unit, 6100 South right here, the tracks line, and Clear Street, just east of the property. So the property is a corner side in the R18 zone. It's not a large house. It's about 1,400 square feet with the basement and the main floor. The ADU that's being proposed is 548 square feet, which is about 38% of the total square footage. So we'll go through and just show you real quickly how this is going to work. Real quickly, a couple of pictures of the property. You're looking across Clear Street. There's a detached garage. You can see the large driveway. There's plenty of room for the parking. We don't have any concerns with that. Just on the rear side of the house is the walkout entrance to the basement that would be used for the ADU, and you have 6100 South over here. This is just a shot looking south from down Clear Street from the applicant's property. Most of the homes are smaller as well. It's not going to look out of place here at all, and I just wanted to show you that. I can't remember why I had that. I had a really good reason for that picture. I can't remember right now. but I'll
Maybe
come
you're
back
just
to it.
showing us how nice the street looks.
Something like that. It's very clean. So this is the site plan right here on the right-hand side. So you can see the accessory structures, the garage and the shed, and this is actually the floor plan of the ADU. We have a larger version of that in just a moment, but the upper floor, again, just the measurements. We don't have the floor plan, but just the measurements of it. This is the walkout basement. You can see that here as well. In the ADU itself, you just have a kitchen, dining area, living area, one bedroom, the bathroom, and the sort of hallway here. They'd have some access to the furnace room, which is helpful for the building code requirements that come into play for ADUs. That's a challenge a lot of times. So it's good that they have access to that. And then the laundry room they have some limited access to as well. When you take these areas out of the accessory dwelling unit and the stairwell and this 1 foot ledge that runs around the exterior of the building, so the upstairs is 1 foot bigger all the way around as a perimeter, you wind up with that 38%. So we just made it on the happenstance of that funny foundation work that was done on this building. So that was kind of lucky. We've gone through, and I won't go through them in detail here for the presentation, but in your staff reports, we've detailed the different requirements for accessory dwelling units, and I'll just hit a couple of big ones for the record. The main requirement for accessory dwelling units is that the property owner live in one of the two units, either in the primary dwelling unit or the accessory dwelling unit. Mr. O'Connor doesn't currently live at this location, but he plans to if he's approved for an accessory dwelling unit. He would still have to file the affidavit like anyone does, and that would state that he was living in one of the two units. We'd file that with the county like normal. They're not allowed to have more than 2 bedrooms. We don't have that issue here as well.
And he wouldn't be able to get that affidavit in place until construction's complete, all of that's done, and he's made the move.
Right. We will, and there usually are some building items to do. This is actually the kitchen exists, the bathroom, all of this stuff is existing. So there's not a lot of remodeling to do, but he will have to work with the building inspectors to make sure that it's meeting codes. We worried about egress windows, and there's been that conversation at the planning review meeting. So we'll have an inspection done and see what needs to be done. But as a part of that, then after that he'd be able to file that affidavit and move in. So with that, we are recommending approval as a staff subject to these conditions. They mostly deal with our ADU requirements and the building code requirements that come into play. You have any questions for staff at this point?
Questions? No. All right, thank you. If we could have the applicant come up and state your name and address for us.
My name is Mike O'Connor. I live in Idaho Falls, Idaho. I'm representing my brother Brian this evening as a spokesperson.
Okay. And an address, please?
4581 Madison River Road, Idaho Falls,
Perfect.
Idaho.
Perfect. Have you guys had an opportunity to review the 9 conditions as presented?
Yes.
And you'll be able to comply with those 9 conditions?
Yes, sir.
Including the occupancy certificate?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Any questions for the applicant? No? Is there anything you'd like to add to the presentation?
No.
All right, thank you. Okay, we will open this up for public comment if anyone would like to speak to this. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment portion. Bring it back up here.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make motion that the Plan Commission approve conditional use permit to allow the accessory dwelling unit at the property address 6102 South Clear Street, subject to the conditions 1 through 8.
All All right, I have a motion by Mr. Hacker to approve a conditional use permit to allow an accessory dwelling unit at the property address 6102 South Clear Street, subject to conditions 1 through 8.
I'd like to second Mr. Hacker's motion.
Second by Ms. Milkevich. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. Good luck. All right. Item number 9 this evening is going to be the skin therapist seeking a conditional use for an esthetician, I can never say that word, service at the property addressed 308 East, 4500 South. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you up in just a moment. Mr. Smallwood.
All right, so this property is located just off Atwood Boulevard, which is around 300 East, and it's the clock tower property kind of development area. So she's proposing to run an esthetician service here within a room. I apologize, I always get stumbled on this. So she is located within a room inside of a suite inside the building. So it's kind of, those little Russian dolls thing. So it's a 150 square foot room, and she just does esthetician servicing there. Pretty basic. The property has plenty of parking. And so we are recommending approval there, subject to the 5 conditions. The main condition there being our landscaping requirement. So, and that could be of the applicant or we require the landscaping to be improved by the property owner. So,
Okay.
any questions for me?
Questions for staff?
I do. I've got a question about the landscaping where it says the frontage on 3rd East, but the picture that you just showed us shows it Atwood Boulevard, so I'm just trying to get a picture of where the 3rd East
So the Atwood Boulevard is 3rd East.
is. 3rd East.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I apologize for that.
All right. Then I don't have a question.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think that's good.
Okay, thank you.
We could have the applicant up. Good
Hi.
evening.
My name is Ryan Marie. I live at 4743 Caitlin Ann Circle in Taylorsville.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to review these 5 conditions?
Yes.
You'll be able to comply with the 5 conditions?
Yes.
Have you talked with the property owner about the landscape?
No,
No.
but my boyfriend's a contractor, and he said if he had to put bushes in, he will put bushes in for me. So
Okay.
as long as the building owner says it's okay.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, the building owner has to do it. Yeah. So, just for education for everyone that's here, the reason that we do that is anytime a conditional use comes before us, it's an opportunity for us to meet or get buildings and properties up to current city standards. And so it's just constant renewal of the city. And you just happen to be the lucky person that drew this straw for this property, but it does help improve the overall city, especially over time. Anything else you'd like to add to this presentation?
No.
No? Any questions for the applicant? No?
Tonight's been too easy. I feel like I should think of something. Nope, I have nothing.
Like what kind of bushes? Do they have to have flowers?
Well, so the landscape
Yeah.
ordinance will state it very clearly
And
for you.
staff
Yeah.
can help you.
They will help
figure
you.
out what's
Does that make it more
required.
interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that property is a relatively new property, and it's in beautiful condition.
Super pretty, yeah.
You're just going to make it just a little bit prettier. But as an esthetician, you can appreciate making it just a little prettier.
I will have all my clients look out the window and be like, see those bushes?
Yeah. We're all benefiting.
Fantastic. All right, we'll have you take a seat, and we'll open this up for public comment. If anyone would like to speak to this issue. Seeing none, we will close the public comment and bring it back up here for discussion or a motion.
The only discussion I have is just to be put into the record that this might, I feel like, be an area that we could review what our conditions are of an esthetician's versus other things that are in the same office space that don't require the same conditional use permit. So just something to maybe consider moving forward of
Because
the
the-
requirements that we have of them specifically and not the other uses in her
Because the
state
massage
office.
therapist is not
Is
required
allowed
to come
and not-
before us.
Right, and doesn't need the conditional use permit. So, I mean, that's just something that to put in the record as, something to maybe move forward and think about.
Please. since we poked the bear, you can
Yeah,
go
well,
ahead.
I'll be quick, I promise. The funny thing is, we keep a running list of these kinds of things, and we kind of, without being too glib, we kind of have to stumble upon them. We don't. So as
There's
we
great debate
weren't-
that goes into this, right? I mean, we think and think and think when we
Yeah.
come up with these
And
ordinances.
we just kind of stumbled upon it, and she said, well, I'm going to be an esthetician. We looked up the zoning and said, well, wow, look, you're actually a conditional use in
Right.
this general office zone.
Which is, why it's good when these things come before, that we can maybe re-look at our requirements for some of those things.
And we'll probably be looking at use lists as a part of the, in the new year coming, we're going to start looking at an overhaul of the zoning ordinance.
Perfect.
And use lists is a great place to
It's my
start
favorite
that.
thing we
Yes,
do,
yeah.
useless.
That's probably what we'll do first.
Come on, Jared. You know that you thought the estheticians, can't say it, would be more willing to put in shrubbery and bushes than the massage therapist. So you chose your battle, right?
We thought we'd get less struggle from the estheticians, so yeah.
All right, thank
Well,
you.
with that being said, I would like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to allow the anesthetician services at the property address 308 East, 4500 South Suite, 280, unit number 3, subject to the 5 conditions in the report.
I have a motion by Mrs. Patterson to approve conditional use to allow for esthetician services at the property address 308 East, 4500 South, Suite 280, unit number 3, subject to conditions 1 through 5. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Hacker. Call for a vote, please.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Hacker,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Good luck. All right, item number 10 this evening is River Park Commons seeking a final condominium subdivision at the property address 4878 South Murray Boulevard. And I see the applicant in the audience, so again. Mr. Hall.
Thank you. So, as you're aware, the last time around, we did the preliminary condominium subdivision approval and the conditional use permit. I think you just approved the conditional use permit tonight, or last time you met, actually, maybe, but this is the final. Under the condominium ordinance that was written, it has to go through prelim and final. So we did address a few things, and I'm going to try to just highlight those in the slides as we go through this. Spoiler alert, we are recommending approval of the final subdivision plat. This is the property located at the confluence of the Little Cottonwood Creek and Jordan River along Murray Boulevard here on the east, and the AISU parking lot on the east side of Murray Boulevard there. It is in the RM15 zone, as you're aware. One of the things that's going to be happening as a part of this project is the installation of the Little Cottonwood Creek Trail, or at least the first portion of that trail. One of the questions that was asked during the preliminary discussion was about the crossing here at the bridge. So this is actually a bridge of Murray Boulevard going across the creek, and at that bridge, that's where we're going to make a connection eventually. Right now, in speaking with Trey Stokes and his department, the engineering department is going to be going forward with this trail plan. They're the ones that are going to be implementing it and drew up the plans. Right now is not the time they want to do that crossing because it doesn't go to anywhere on the other side. So they'd rather not entice people to cross at that point. They'd rather have them go down to the mid-block crossing that exists further north, or further south, rather, sorry, in the Hunters Woods Apartments, if they're going to use that way. Now, when the time comes that they're ready to do more sections of the trail, they'll definitely want to put a crossing in. We'll probably put in a little post you can push and have a flash a sign showing that people are coming across to make it a little safer. They're kicking around ideas for that kind of thing. We don't have those drawn up yet, just so you know, okay? This is the condo plat. Again, as a reminder, these are condominium units that are townhome style. There's a lot of sometimes confusion in the real estate world about what a townhome is and what a condominium is, and the two terms are not mutually exclusive. These are townhome style condominium units. So the road coming in comes from Murray Boulevard and then loops around to give access to the condominium units. As you recall, all of them are garaged, and they are garaged from the rear. So there's actually kind of a perimeter of walkways that serve the unit's front doors, et cetera, and kind of creates a park-like atmosphere in there. This is a condo plat, so again, you have the interiors of the units listed or shown on the right there. And again, there are multiple floors, so we have to show all of those on the condo plat. This is just to illustrate real quickly that during the conversation that we had, we wanted to see if we could better connect the parking areas, the guest parking areas, to the fronts of the units. It's a little difficult to do because we're pulling the guest parking off of the roadway, that driveway, and it's serving the rears of the units, and there's not a good place to put them. But in a couple of obvious places, we did small extensions of the sidewalks to make that a little better. the old plat, or the old plan shows here in the corner. I actually wanted to show, well, I have another slide for that, sorry. Again, these are the condo units and what they'll look like, the materials. Those haven't changed between now and when you looked at preliminary, so if you're still amenable to those, we feel like the materials and the architecture are good and meet the requirements of the code.
I think they're better than good.
Yeah, they're really nice units. I actually, there's some of these, Brighton Homes is building some of these in my old neighborhood in North Salt Lake, so they're great units. It's been a good addition to our old neighborhood. So just real quickly to show you the fencing. We talked about fencing last time around. There are 4 different types of fencing on the project. So you have a 4-foot split rail in the front along Murray Boulevard, and I've mislabeled them somewhere. I can't remember where you showed me, Sean, but somewhere I mislabeled and said 6 feet high, and I think it might have been here. These are not 6 feet high. These are 4 feet high because they're front yard split rail. Along the creek, it'll be this, no, I'm sorry, this is where it is. Along the creek and along the perimeter here, these are 4-foot split rail as well. We had talked alternately about doing 6 foot and doing 4 foot, and they really felt in the end that they weren't as worried about security and things like that from the Parkway Trail, but they wanted really people to feel a connection to that amenity and enjoy that. So they just go with the 4-foot split rail there. And this is privacy fence between the apartment units at Hunters Woods and the condos to the north, or to the south. I always do that my whole life, sorry. Condo units to the south and them. This is just privacy there. We did add some interior light locations. The interior lights will be these kind of decorative, shorter lights, so they're not going to create a lot of pollution. There's a lot of light from the units themselves. You got garage lights over those garage doors facing that interior driveway. We should be pretty well lit, and then front walk lights and things on all the units. So with a few strategically placed interior lights, we should be good. Another thing I wanted to quickly show you, we did ask them to do a tree survey. They did do that. We're only able to save a few of the trees because of the nature of the units and the configurations, but they're kind of the ones that we wanted to really get the most. So there's a lot of trees on the parkway in this area as well, but we were able to save a few here. That'll make a big difference in this corner. There's a lot of, it looks small on the tree survey plan here, but those are large canopied trees. So that'll be a big plus. And then again up along the creek as well. We wanted to make sure we saved those trees as was possible. We are recommending, like I said, approval for the final plat. You would forward a recommendation of approval to the mayor for the final condominium plat with these conditions. And there are a lot of them. The engineering conditions, a lot of them have been addressed, but as is our practice with subdivisions, in final subdivision we often keep a lot of those same conditions from preliminary, even though they've been partially addressed or even fully addressed. We like them to just carry over so that there's no question that these things have to be met and continued to meet. So, any questions for staff at this point?
Questions for staff?
I have one, maybe to you, maybe to the applicant. So there are several driveways in here that are a little bit deeper. They're on the corner properties. I assume this will be a homeowners association.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is there anything that precludes residents from actually parking in their driveways? Because driveways are, the garage doors will be relatively close to the street, curb gutter.
In most of the cases, right.
In which case, if you try to do that, you end up hanging out into the middle of the street, so.
That's a good question, and Sean could probably answer it better than me, the applicant. This is just, and I didn't redo this slide, but it's a good point, Mr. Hacker. This area, for example, here, larger driveways, that's limited common, and I have to admit I haven't read that carefully enough to know whether you could park in limited common area or not. In the common areas you can, where it's designated, so these guest parking spots you can park in, and then your garages are private space, but the little tiny space in front of your garages are limited common. So my guess is you're not allowed to park in limited common. I don't know how that works with the corners like that. Sean could probably address that better than me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Please. Go ahead.
So since we're admitting to our lack of looking into something, lack of knowledge on the topic, I apologize if this is already in there, but have we discussed trash at all? Trash receptacles?
We did during preliminary, actually. They're planning on auto can pickup. So each person will have a smaller, they're smaller than normal cans, but they contract themselves because this is private drive, so the city's contract won't cover them. They'll have to do their own contract as an HOA, and they'll use smaller cans because it's tighter.
Which, for the record, Mr. Markham really supports. He's a fan of. He's a fan of it.
He's happy.
I do have one question. Could you just go over the sidewalk movements?
Yeah.
as best as possible. I actually think the landscape one might not be a bad plan to show up from.
Okay, we can probably do that. So, basically, you have sidewalks. We wanted to make sure that there was a sidewalk basically connecting this large area of guest parking so that you didn't have to necessarily walk out here in the road if you were headed to these other units and you had to park down here, because we weren't able to disperse the parking throughout as much as you'd like to. So this section was added to get them around to the front of these units without going into the road. There's really no way to do sidewalk in these areas to get from these guest parking spots to the others. There's already exterior interior parking or interior sidewalk systems. From these, you would use the sidewalk that we'll be installing on Murray Boulevard to come around to the front. So there's really nowhere else to do it other than around the playground area. We wanted to make sure that we got sidewalks in the playground area that connected across, and that we got a light in that area.
I do like the addition of the light in the area. The sidewalk around the playground area does connect with Murray Boulevard Road. Is that a true statement, or is it?
Comes around here, yes. Well,
Yeah.
it brings you up to here and around, yeah.
Okay, and then the other guest parking, it does have a connection to the main street, or no?
You mean this one or this one here?
That one right there.
There's not a formal connection other than right here. That would take you in front of the units to the interior kind of. There are these interior sidewalks. Let me go to the slide here.
And those units don't
would take you to one
necessarily.
of these kind of.
And
sidewalks
that
would
doesn't
take you back out.
necessarily connect to the main public sidewalk, correct?
No, not
It's
really.
it's more on property.
It's in that
It's-
area, but
yeah,
it's on the interior of the property.
yeah. So there's 20 feet or something difference between the two. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll have the applicant up. And you know the drill.
My name is Sean Poor. My address is 215 North Redwood Road in North Salt Lake.
Okay. First
yeah.
off, you've had an opportunity to review all 15 conditions, and we'll be able to comply with all 15 conditions.
Yeah. Like Jared mentioned, most of them were on our preliminary, and we've been through them and don't have any issues with those. So,
Perfect. Go ahead.
And with the tree survey, unfortunately we were required to put a launch trench for the meander corridor of the Jordan River on the side there, and that cut out a lot of the existing trees, unfortunately. Caused us a little bit of headache, but yeah, we got that. We got the walkways added, and then sorry, there was one question that you wanted me to address. Oh, right. So we wouldn't want anyone parking there. I'll have to check and see if there's something in our CC&Rs that says you can't, and if not, we can add it, because I mean, especially Unit 121, if someone parks there, they're going to block Unit 120 probably from getting in and out of their driveway, and like you said, with 111, they'll probably hang out into the street. So it's something I agree we wouldn't want that either. So we'll check the CC&Rs and see if it's in there, and if not, we're happy to add it. So
For the record, and also for me, CCR, what?
the covenants for the community.
Covenants, conditions, and restrictions.
Yes.
Thank you.
With an emphasis on restrictions. Okay. Any questions for
I
the
had another
applicant?
question. So, on this tree survey, can you plant in that barrier that's up against that, what is it called?
The launch trench.
Can you plant in that?
Not any large trees. No, it's basically it's a row of rocks that are buried there. So we'll be putting sod over the top of it, but we wouldn't be able to do anything with the large root system.
So today there are a lot of really nice trees, some not so nice. However, is the intent to landscape this similar to what you have shown here?
Yeah.
As far as trees and other barriers, I mean, I appreciate the quality of the structures and how you've developed them, but some for the residents, some for the people on the parkway. I think good landscaping on that area is pretty key.
Yeah, I agree. And we've added a row of trees along the launch trench as close as we could put them to it, and we're happy to add a few more there if you'd like. And I'll have to talk to our landscape architect and see what type of plants he thinks we could put on top of the launch trench, just based on the detail that flood control has given us. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
I have one more question, and honestly, I think it might have been more appropriate for staff. I'm not sure. It's about the letter we have in our packet from the Murray School District. So we asked the applicant to communicate with Murray School District, and my understanding was we were asking them to communicate with Murray School District to assure that the school district could undertake the new load of students. But in the letter, it talks about, it just clarifies that yes, these students will be students of the Murray School District. It doesn't talk about the capacity in the schools.
And that's the standard letter we always get from Rocky. And that's as far as he goes, is to say there'll be kids in the Murray School District, and there you go. And I guess if he wasn't going to accommodate them, he would say, these kids shall not be in the Murray School District. That's the letter we always get.
Well, that's exactly why it was interesting to me. By law, you have to accommodate them, but we're questioning if it's an appropriate.
We like to do it to make sure that they know that it's coming and they can plan for the future to accommodate them wherever they're going to have to. If they're going to have to bus them, if they're going to have to move them around. In the school district, I think Tim was just at the school district coordination meeting yesterday, talking about different projects and new things that are happening. We try to keep them abreast as much as possible of everything going on.
Well,
so
and
that
if
we don't burden it. But
I'm to believe Pam Perlich's presentation that I saw today, she tells you that we're running out of students now. That we just had our last major wave go through, and the university in 5 years is going to be running out of students, and the elementary schools and high schools are running out of students. I don't believe it.
She should come visit our schools.
Not at our school.
Yeah, it's the wave, and yeah.
The last wave, huh?
The last wave.
As long as I was back up, can I just clarify one thing about the launch trench for you? And I think it's good to look into it. One of the challenges that they'll have, and the reason that Sean will need to work with his landscape architect, is because that trench, so the way it works is if the river ever comes up and erodes the bank below that trench, there's these rocks, this rock wall waiting to drop down into place if it erodes and restabilize the bank. So if you plant large, and I asked this question, I said, why can't we just replant the cottonwoods and stuff all on top of it? Those root structures would hold those rocks in place and defeat the purpose of the launch trench as they grew.
But the trees would fill the.
Yeah,
they would fall right on in.
They'd fall down and make kind of a wooden bank for a while. So anyway, that's you're not thinking like an engineer.
I'm not.
That's
so there's also some space between the left-hand side of that trench
on the other side.
and the actual
75
parkway
feet,
itself.
right? 70.
There are some trees in
between
here
the blacktop parkway.
There are still trees on that side as well.
Correct.
But yeah, anything we can do to keep as much tree canopy in that area as we can, I think is appropriate. That's what we were trying to do with the tree survey. We were glad that they were willing to work with us on that.
All right, this is open for public comment. If anyone would like to speak to this issue, come on up. Seeing none, we will close public comment and bring it back up here for more discussion or a motion.
I would like to, for the record, since this is being forwarded to the mayor, I know Traffic and Safety has put in our packet that they propose to stripe the Murray Boulevard adjacent to this property and across the street to prohibit on-street parking on both sides, which I think is a valuable way to try and protect this street. But I would like to see that go further, and hopefully the mayor can address this and maybe work with Traffic and Safety, because it's my personal feeling that this development is not currently the problem with on-street parking in this area. And if we want to address on-street parking, then we need to consider extending the red striping through the Woods or the Hunter's Woods apartments. That is where we're having problems with on-street parking. That is where there's safety concerns between people crossing the street. And so, as we forward this on to the mayor, and we could maybe have more discussion about it, but I think it would be worth emphasizing that, yes, although this will help protect with some of the on-street parking, it doesn't go far enough. They need to extend that on-street protection.
I am glad that it was included as a condition, though. That it was nice to hear. And I think actually a lot of the initial issues that we heard from the neighbors were that it was just going to extend down.
Right.
This takes away that concern of theirs. So that is
well,
good.
and I think that this being developed is going to prevent people from parking here, because it won't just be an empty lot, and it's
Right.
not affecting anybody, so I can park here.
Right.
But I think that the area that is creating the safety hazard and the on-street parking is in Hunter's Woods, and
Absolutely.
it needs to be continued.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All right.
Well, here we sit.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of final approval for the River Park Commons condominium subdivision to the mayor with the, how many? 11, hold on.
15.
Sorry. 15 discussed conditions.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Milkevich to forward a recommendation of final approval for the River Park Commons condominium subdivision to the mayor, subject to condition 1 through 15. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mrs. Wilson. Call for vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you for your effort on this project. It's actually gone through pretty quick, but all said and done, we appreciate you bringing this development to the city. I think it's going to be a quality development. All right. Anything from staff? I know Jim's not here, so.
And Jim's down at the office, I think, actually still working on other stuff with, as you're aware, Tim's leaving, and a lot of things are headed our department's way that Tim has been doing, and so everybody's busy, but Jim as well. So, but he looked fairly calm today, actually. So good. It's pretty good. We don't really have anything. We do have items on the October 18th, or sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the right month, right?
Yeah.
October 18th agenda, and took my first application for the November 4th agenda today. So if you thought, or November 1st, if you thought you were getting a break, you won't. We'll go right on through the holiday season. So continue to let us know when you have things conflicting, especially as we go into the holidays. So
October 18th is UEA, right?
it is.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a tough one, so that's why
Okay.
I bring it up. We do have items on it, and so if you're going to be gone, please let us know so we can make sure we eke out a quorum and get it done. Other than that, Jim's working on sign code stuff. He should be bringing it to you pretty soon. He's fairly excited about that.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
And his graphics.
That's right. So we're still working on that. We should have that to you before the end of the year. We want to have it in and in the process. So, and we're losing all video, so we're good. That's all I really have from staff. So.
All right, thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
Done.